everyone, my name is Kudzie Mapiye, and on this channel I do videos about my life living here in Australia, and I also share different life lessons that I've learned along the way. In today's video, I'm going to be talking about starting a business in Australia. If you are a current migrant in Australia and you're looking to start a business, or you are a prospective migrant and you want to come to Australia and you want to start a business, I'm just going to let you know in this video how possible it is and why now is the right time to start your business. Now, I just want to focus on migrants in particular, but this is relevant to all people living in Australia. Now, this came to me as I was busy encouraging myself. And while I was encouraging myself, I thought, hang on, I think I should share this as a video and also encourage other people who might be watching, who are wanting to start their own business as well. Now, I say migrants because I know the challenges that migrants face are so unique. Like, there's a lack of support, there are different pressures, like having to cover a lot of ground in a short space of time, like feeling like you're behind, like you didn't get a head start like everyone else. There are very unique challenges that apply to migrants, and some of these can actually become obstacles to people starting their own businesses. Now, why I want to talk about migrants starting their own businesses is I feel like, from what I have personally observed here in Australia in my 16 years in Brisbane, is that a lot of successful businesses are run by migrants. A lot of multi-million-dollar businesses are run by migrants. Like, if you look at the history of who owns the business, like, you know, Westfield Shopping Center, which is like the biggest shopping center provider. Like, Westfield builds so many malls in Australia, like in Brisbane. And I heard that the founder of Westfield, they're actually migrants. If you look at other very successful businesses, they are run by migrants. So there is something about the migrant mind that I think, you know, there's a certain type of drive that a migrant has. Like, you can be driven, but take a migrant who has moved from another country and they have moved to a country where they feel like they can embrace the opportunities. Trust me, it is very hard to compete against that person because they have a certain level of drive that is just out of this world. And I think sometimes as migrants, we don't realize that, or we don't appreciate that about ourselves, that we have certain advantages. Like, it's very easy as a migrant to focus on your disadvantages in a certain country. Like, you can look at, you know, you're not born in that country, maybe you're a different race, you're a different culture. There's so many other things that you can focus on that can count you out or make you at a disadvantage. But if you actually focus on the actual, like, inbuilt qualities that migrants have, that kind of fight spirit, that kind of, like, you know, I won't say die spirit, like, it's something else. It's on another level. And even like in the workplace, I've noticed that migrants have this certain work ethic. Australians have a very good work ethic. Like, I think I mentioned in one of my first videos on this channel that, you know, one thing I admired, like, when I first moved to Australia, was just the Australian work ethic. And migrants, on the other hand, they have this drive, like, they have this hunger for success that is just, I don't know, it just blows my mind. And I was thinking, when it comes to starting a business, there are a lot of things, and I want to share from my personal experience, like things that I have told myself that really slowed me down when I wanted to start something. Even this YouTube channel. If you look, the very first video that is on this channel, the very first video, and I will link it in the description box, I am actually standing up. Like, I do most of my videos sitting down, but on that particular video, I'm actually standing up. And the reason I was standing up in that video is because I had my daughter on my back. Like, you know, how we carry babies in Zimbabwe, like you strap them on your back. My daughter was actually just a few months old and she was strapped on my back. And she was, you know, I said to myself, I want to like embark on this YouTube journey, nothing is going to stop me, not even a little child. Because sometimes even when you're a new mother, you're saying, oh, when my daughter grows up, when my son grows up, like when my child grows up to a certain age, I can start this business, I can start this venture, I can start this thing. When this happens, you know, but you need to do it now, you need to do it anyway. And I always go back to that first video whenever I want to encourage myself to do something, and I look, you know, I connect with the person and the hunger and the drive that I had when I filmed that video that day. I was so determined, like nothing was going to stand in my way that day. Like my daughter had been crying, she had been fussing, but I said, you know what, I'm going to put her on my back. And you know, I put her on my back, and you know, I said, I'm gonna film this video no matter what. Like I had just an attitude that I draw strength from even today. And it's the same thing, like, you know, with migrants, there are other pressures, like, you know, you say, when I've got more money, I'll start a business. When my kids are grown up and I don't have to take care of them, I'll start a business. When this happens, I'll start a business. But it's like when the interest rates drop, I'll start a business. When, you know, when we get out of the cost of living crisis, I'll start a business. If you want to start a business, start it now and take advantage of that hunger and drive that migrants have. The thing that made you jump on a plane to come to a foreign country, that thing, if you tap into that thing, you find that it runs so deep, and if you keep drawing strength from it, you will find that you are unstoppable. I remember I used to tell people at work, like when they would ask me, like, when did you come to Australia? And I'll tell them, like, you know, I came to Australia when I was a student, I was out of high school. And they're like, how did you do it? Like, you were so young. What made you want to come to the other side of the world? And you know what, there was a drive in me. There was something that was just wanting to achieve. There was something that was just had this go-getting attitude that, you know, when I remember who I was then and what drove me to want to come to Australia, I remind myself that I'm actually unstoppable. If I could leave everything I knew behind, if I could leave everyone I knew behind and embark on a new life in a new country by myself, then surely I'm unstoppable. And I always encourage myself with that, because sometimes, you know, things like energy, motivation, if you focus on a lack of energy and a lack of motivation, you'll never do anything. But you need to focus on your strength. You need to focus on that thing that shines within you, that thing that makes you unstoppable. And you just do it. Like, if you want to start a business, do it today. Do it scared, do it, you know, do it sad, do it happy, do it broke. Whatever your situation is, do it as a mother, do it as a busy person, do it as a full-time employed person. Just do it. Getting started, just take one step, one like action step that you can take, and before you know it, you will, you know, you'll be on your way. And I remember this at the time when I was at work and we're doing some training. I was doing a training course, and it was a face-to-face training course, I remember, and it was run by these two ladies. They were actually in business, and they used to train people like, you know, as part of their business. So they would travel all over Australia running training sessions for these organizations, and these ladies were making a lot of money. Like, I knew the amount that my organization had paid for me to be there, and there were a couple of us from my organization in that room. And you know, I was just so fascinated. I was sitting in that room, I remember, and I was doing the math. I was counting people. I'm like, hey, there's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Like, there were so many people in that room, and I'm like, each person has paid like over $600 to have a seat in this room for just a day. And I just said to myself, how much are these ladies making? This is a lot of money. And I was so intrigued that after the training session, I stayed behind because I didn't want to ask this question in front of everyone. I stayed behind until everyone had left. And because like I felt I could, like, you know, confident to do that, because the ladies were so approachable, they were so friendly, and they were mothers like myself, and they're not that old. So I was so intrigued. I said, let me stay behind. I just need to have a chat to these ladies. And I remember I had a chat to one of them, and I just said, you know, I'm just so curious, like, you know, what made you start this business? And she was kind enough to share with me that, you know, she had just recently had her second child. She knew she didn't want to have to, go back to work and have a full-time job. It wasn't going to work for her. So she decided to partner with her best friend and start this business where they would train people on an area that they had a lot of knowledge in. And off they went. And she said they didn't even have it figured out. They just started. They just took the first step, reached out to some people, said, hey, we're starting this thing. Would you like to get some training? And she shared with me as well that they had friends of theirs who started at the same time. She said, me and my friend started this training company at the same time as my other friends, and my other friends, they had more money to throw at this thing, and she said they hired people, they did a lot of planning, they planned and planned and planned how this was going to be. And she's like, for us it was just me and my friend, and we just got up and got going, and we didn't know what we're doing, but we just gave it a go. And she said, we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and my other friends who were planning and planning and planning and planning, they still haven't started. They still haven't had a single training session yet. They're still, I don't know, trying to figure it out. That just taught me that sometimes you just have to get going. It doesn't matter if you don't have enough resources. Just use what you can and take action steps, because sometimes we get stuck in planning. We're planning, writing master plan upon master plan upon master plan. There's nothing wrong with planning, but you can get in this cycle of just over planning until you just don't take any action, and before you know it, a few years have gone past and you have done nothing. And you can even invest a lot of money and hire a lot of people and do all these things to plan, but never do anything. And it just really encouraged me when I heard that lady sharing of how she had started. And I said, what, I can do it too. I can start something. I can do something despite my circumstances. And I remember I started filming YouTube videos a long time ago, and I deleted the ones that I did in my earlier days. I just thought, man, these should not see the light of day. Trust me, you are not missing out. But yeah, so the ones that I left on this channel are the ones that I thought, yeah, you know what, I can keep these ones. But I only started, actually being a little bit more consistent after I had my second child. Things were even harder. And before I even had kids, I was just, you just always say, I'm gonna do this, and you never do it. But you just need to get up and get going. It doesn't matter what your situation is. There is always going to be something. Something will always come up. You wait for the perfect situation, it will never arrive. You think you've got the perfect situation, then something happens. Then you postpone it until the next perfect situation, and something happens. That is called life. Life never stops happening. Life will always life. And if you don't just take the opportunity, seize the moment, seize the day, and do what you want to do what you set your heart to do, then it'll never see the light of day. So I just wanted to encourage someone, as I also encourage myself, that get up, get going, and do that thing that you've always wanted to do, and take advantage of those things that that bravery that you had to leave your country, to start life afresh, that bravery you had, that courage that you had. Trust me, not everybody can do that. When you hear some people, they haven't even left the state that they were born in, and it scares them to think of even just leaving everything they know to move to another country and start a different life. But if you have been able to do that, I mean, come on, there is nothing that you cannot do. And surely you can start a business, you can start whatever venture that you've always wanted to start, and it will be a success. It will be a success if you're focused, if you keep going and you don't give up, and if you see that don't focus on the things that you might see as a disadvantage about yourself in another country. Just focus on those qualities that you have, the qualities that are making you remain in the country that you're in, that fighting spirit, the thing that that keeps driving you. Focus on that and tell yourself and remind yourself that, hey, this is who I am, this is what I can do, and this is what I have done before. I always sometimes use Bible stories, and I think they transcend religion. Like there are some stories in the Bible that transcend religion, that is like, you know what, you don't even have to be a Christian for this to resonate with you. And one of those is the stories of, you know, the story of David and Goliath. You know, when David was a young man and he went and, you know, he killed Goliath, who was this giant that everyone was afraid of. Like, you know, people were like, you know, how did this little guy do it? And before he went to fight Goliath, like, you know, he reminded himself of some things. Like David, it says that, you know, he had killed like lions with his bare hands and stuff like that. It talks about the history of what he had done before just before he embarked on this big feat that he was about to undertake. So sometimes you have to remind yourself of your previous successes, things that you have done before, and say, hey, wait a minute, I have done this and this and this and this before. Surely I can do this. And trust me, a lot of people, when they migrated, it was not the perfect situation. Things were very hard wherever they were coming from, but they chose to do it anyway. And they did it afraid, they did it broke, they did it happy, they did it scared. They just did it anyway. Like they just moved. If you tell them like, how did you manage to do it? Some of them, they can't even tell you. They're just like, I don't know, I just did it. I just got up and I just did it. So, you know, you can do it. Just get up, do it, start that thing that you've always wanted to do, and trust me, you will succeed at it. I hope you enjoyed that video, and I'll see you in my next one.